Hi everybody, I'm Jack Hathaway and welcome to Conversation Corner. This is, we're nearing the end of December and I'm here with Jim Lehan, who are from our Board of Selectmen. Jim is my usual sidekick, and so welcome Jim, and
Thank you, Jack.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you.
So we are here and you can tell we have all of our notes in front of us. We are well prepared for today's show. We do have a number of topics we want to talk about, but this should be a relatively short show, I think.
Well, I thought, thank you, Jack. I thought one of the things that we could talk about there are a lot of potential developments going on in town. Some of them quite substantial in size or significant in size. So maybe we should, let's just chat about a few of those, and let's start with Southwood.
All right.
Some of you may know Southwood is an old hospital site. It's down off of Route 1A. It's been abandoned now for probably 15 years, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, it was back when I had my first house in town. Yeah, it was early 90s.
Yeah, it's about 100 acres of land. There are significant, there are some significant considerations around pollution. You can argue over who did it. Doesn't matter. It's there, and it's owned by the Archdiocese. There's a gentleman that has a purchase and sale agreement with the Archdiocese, who has an expertise and experience, if you will, in cleaning up brownfield situations such as this, and that's a condition of the sale. And we've been in conversation with him now for a better part of 6 months, I think, and trying to work through some of the issues. He's proposing a very, very large project, a significant number of homes, as well as some significant commercial development, which we are always excited about because that certainly is more of a profitable component to us than residential. The area is currently zoned for restricted age, which is 55 and up under our definition. There are different definitions of restricted age, but that's ours, and commercial. And so he would have the right, if you will, to go in and develop that under those conditions. He originally was looking at a mixture of some mixed use, some restricted age and some non-restricted age. And I've forgotten how many what the number was he originally proposed. It was 300-400 homes.
Yeah,
it was huge.
North of 300, yeah.
Yeah. And that obviously presents a whole bunch of issues to us, schools, infrastructure considerations, and so on. But we've been working through, I think, in a pretty good way with him. We put a group of people together, and we've had a lot of discussion around some of the issues that we have with that. And why don't you chat about one of them, which I think is foremost on all of our minds right now, which is water.
Yeah, so we have 2 wells in town, Gold Street and Spruce Road, and we have enough, I think there's a pretty long history going back to when we created the DPW and took over the water department, from the sewer and water commissioners, or the water commissioners, I should say.
Yeah, about 8 years ago.
Yeah, and through that time, back in Butch Vito's time, and then now under Bob McGee and Phil McNulty, we've really added, Phil in particular with his expertise has added a lot to the water department, and we've brought a lot of best practices into play and done a lot of leak detection and really given us some breathing room because 4 or 5 years ago we were getting to a critical point where we were being challenged to meet the daily requirements of the town as far as terms of water use, particularly in the summer months. We've now created some breathing room, and we've slowed down that unaccounted for water, eliminated that, and down to a industry standard number, which is less than 10%. We're down in the 7-8%. And but with these big subdivisions being talked about, as you said, it's certainly brought this to the forefront that we need to find another another source of water. So we're looking at this, as on its own merits. We're looking at wells, and then we're also looking at wells in terms of these larger projects because those property owners or those developers tend to have the ability to work with us to segregate some land for well development. So we're hoping that through the next year we'll be able to identify a location and do the testing that's required, and the testing isn't cheap because you end up putting a well in and then testing the quality and quantity of water and trying to find a location.
And the permitting process is not quick either. So it's somewhere between 2 and 4 to 5 years to get a well permitted.
Yeah.
We have been working. We've had some exploratory wells over the past few years. We have entered into agreements with other towns to help each other when we have these water crises. Problem is that when you're kind of held hostage by your neighboring town, the rates are a little steep. Yeah.
We just don't, yeah.
Yeah, so we avoid that as best we can.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But we're hopeful that one of these sites will prove beneficial, and if we can do it with the cooperation of a developer where we sort of share in the cost of that, that's certainly in our best interest.
Absolutely.
We have another development proposed up off of Lawrence
Yep.
Street, that is substantial in size, that presents the same issues in terms of water and infrastructure that the one on Southwood does. And I believe that's about 150, 175 homes, or maybe a little bit more.
Yeah, that's, we're obviously still in the conceptual stage, but I've seen anywhere between just over 100 to 300 homes if you include apartments. So it's, obviously the conceptual stage, you never know quite what the developers, he may propose a bigger number so that he can get to the number that he really wants to get to. So that's, but that's the Buckley and Mann property as well as some additional land. So he's got quite a couple hundred acres, I think, up there actually.
Yeah.
A lot of wetland, so it's not all developable, but
And on our side, on the Board of Selectmen, we're not a permitting board, so we really don't get a vote per se in terms of what they can and they can't do on the property, other than perhaps through zoning
yep.
and through infrastructure issues such as water. So that's where really our involvement and opportunity to help control the process rests. But we do have, the issue of water has come to the forefront. And it's not that it's been ignored, it's just moving at a little bit of a faster pace, I think, than it has in the past. So that's something we have to work on.
And by zoning, you obviously mean zoning changes. They would have to go through town meeting.
Right, yep. One of the other things is good news, just real quick, the medical building down on Pine Street is its occupancy is growing by the day. How long is that now?
Last I knew, they had the third floor open, so they were still working on the
Around
first 2 floors.
75%, somewhere around there?
So
Yeah. That's a wonderful place for the type of business it is and brings in great revenue to the town. I wish we had more of that, but coming along.
and we have down around that area, we have obviously Rocco Plaza has been open for a couple of years now. Hopefully they'll be able to get some more tenants, but they've got the sub store there, and I think it's Pilates around back. We have the gas station going in on Route 1A.
Right. And the Dunkin' Donuts.
We just drove by there, yeah, gas station and Dunkin' Donuts and a little convenience store.
Right.
So that is coming to shape.
And perfectly placed, because that's right in front of where our new police station's going to go.
Yes, it is. So that works out well. I'm sure
does.
they're enjoying all those jokes.
Yeah. But we have closed on the police station, and we're in the process of negotiating a lease agreement with the surrounding towns, which, if I have it correct, is Rentham, Plainville, and Franklin, and Norfolk. And we're excited about this. It's been a long time in coming, and we've gone out to bid for the appropriate parties to give us construction drawings and all of that good stuff. And we hope to start construction. How long do you think it'll be before they start?
That's on the rec side.
Right.
So when you talk about the 4 communities, that's the regional dispatch center that'll occupy a quarter of the building. Yeah, so they've gone out and they've hired a project manager and an architect. They think, well, I know they could potentially end construction December a year from now. So they'd probably start in the fall. Pretty short construction time. And then from there they have 3 months, a good 3 months, probably a little bit more than 3 months of fitting up all the equipment. So they get all the, it's obviously going to be very heavily computerized area. Mm-hmm. It's the regional dispatch center. And so then now you're talking late March, April of 2016, and then we start training the new staff and go live, potentially as early as July 2016.
So a year and a half away.
Yeah, year and a half away.
Yeah.
So we're working on budgets for the dispatch center now, and we have another round of grants that we're applying for to finish off the construction. So they're in good shape. Yeah, I think that's...
We just have to negotiate the lease.
We do. So now we can charge them whatever we want.
Yeah. I wish it were that simple.
John Carroll suggested $15 million, so that's
It's a good number.
Yeah.
Just about what we need to build a police station. huh?
exactly.
Yeah.
I think that came in coincidence.
And our longer term plans for this, we have 3/4 of that building that we plan on moving the police station down to, and then renovating the existing station for the fire. And we're in the process of looking for some folks to help us with those plans as well. In fact, we just got the proposals in and picked a firm that we're going to work with. And then at some point in time, we're going to have to come talk to the voters about it. It's long overdue. It's been years that we've delayed this. The economy didn't help, and we really just can't wait a whole lot longer. And oddly enough, I think it was somewhat fortunate that we did wait, in that the rec center wasn't really even on anyone's radar screen when we
Right.
originally proposed this, and of course now it is. So that not being part of the new complex, it's a cost savings, number one, and it also makes it feasible to separate the systems.
Yeah, you're right. The rec center ended up kind of driving us to this location,
Yeah,
so it worked out
so
well.
it did. Sometimes things happen
Yeah.
to our advantage, whether it be by accident or otherwise. This one seemed to work out.
Yeah, so and I agree. We do need to get that building built, and we certainly understand. You and I have talked about it many times. We understand the impact to the taxpayers, and we don't want to add to the tax rate and
Yeah.
all that. But as we have debt coming off, we'd like to look at trying to get this project in, because the facilities for our public safety building for both police and fire is inadequate. And in some cases,
Yeah.
creates
And-
unsafe situations.
And maybe just to sort of clarify to folks what we mean by debt coming off, we have a component of our budget called excluded debt, which is basically things that you have, as voters, have supported schools, all 3 schools actually, 4 schools really, but the HOD is now completed. But the new elementary school, the middle school, I think, is still on the books, and the high school
Yep.
is still on the books. And that debt is going down every year. And hopefully, if we can do this right and interest rates stay low, which if you know any better than I do, let me know.
Yep.
But I think they will for a period of time. It will advantage us greatly. And if we can time this in a way that it's kind of a trade, so to speak, and I'm oversimplifying because it's not quite that simple, but in principle, if we've got sufficient coming off to offset what might go on should the voters approve this new project, we can mitigate a lot of the financial concerns in terms of increase in taxes. So that's our hope, and that's what we're going to work towards, to try to plan this and time this in a way that it works. Because we can do short-term borrowing versus long-term borrowing and play with it a little bit to try and make that happen. So we're going to do our best at mitigating some of those concerns. The other thing, we've have set our new tax rate,
We have.
and maybe we talk a little bit about that, unfortunately.
Sure. We did. We go through the process every fall, and ends up coming to a conclusion in December. We go through really kind of formally starts in May when we have the town meeting, because that's when we vote the budget, which really drives the budget, drives the tax rate indirectly, really directly, I should say. So we have a couple people kind of working together on this. We have the treasurer, the town accountant, and the assessor, all doing their different components. The treasurer is working on the debt, the excluded debt, as you talked about, because that is added on to the tax rate at the end of the process. We have the town accountant who is taking all of the budget information and putting that into the formula, making sure that we stay under the levy limit. And then we have the assessor who values all the homes, all the property in town, residential homes, commercial, industrial, property, personal property that businesses have. That all gets figured into the calculation. Open space, that all gets, again, figured into the calculation. So that all happens throughout the fall, the summer and the fall, and then we come to the selectmen in December, and we say, we have the levy, which we take last year's levy, add 2.5% to it. We divide that by the value of all the property in town, and that creates our tax rate. And I shortened that a little bit, overly shortened that. But when we take the levy, we add on the excluded debt that we have to add this year, and then we divide that by the property.
And the Board of Selectmen don't set the tax rate, just for folks. We get to really only vote on one thing, and that's whether or not we have what's known as a split tax rate. And a split tax rate simply means that you can share a different proportion of that between commercial and residential. We're 94%, 93, 94% residential, 6 or 7% commercial. If we were to use a split rate, we would basically eliminate anybody wanting to come in here and do any commercial development. We just don't have enough of it to sustain a split rate. Rentham has a split rate. That's an example of one that does. Hopkinton, Holliston do not have split rates. I don't believe Walpole does either. Walpole does. Franklin does not.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I may have that backwards.
Yeah.
But some of the surrounding towns, that they generally say you need between 18 and 20% commercial base to do a split rate and not have it drive your commercial business out of town. We're probably not going to be that fortunate. So
Not for a
we
while.
are an even rate between commercial and residential. That's really the only vote the selectmen get to make. The tax rate is purely a function of the mathematics.
So the big conclusion is we're at, I believe it's $17.66. So it's up
About 22 cents, I
22,
think.
23 cents.
Yeah.
And, we had all hoped, myself included, and I think you were thinking of the same thing, that the tax rate would be going down as we see the home values go up. We saw appreciation of 1 to 2%, on average, and that was not able, that didn't drive the tax rate down.
Right.
As that denominator rises, we're still seeing average home values, assessed home values, lower than they were in 2005. So as those home values, hopefully for all of our betterment,
Close enough.
yeah, whatever. As we see those values go up, obviously our home values go up. That's good news, and then the added news is that would drive the tax rate down.
We had hoped that the evaluations were up more than like 3 to 4% range, and it turned out to be on average about 2.5%. So basically, it just comes not even quite close to offsetting the 2.5% increase in the levy. And on the other considerations, the excluded debt and things of that nature, we need 4 or 5% really to offset any tax increase.
Yeah.
Hopefully next year, because values are continuing to rise. They're going up, but it was, I don't want to say, well, it was disappointing. I thought it was going to be a little higher than that. But again, we don't get a vote.
Right, and one of the things that we talked about at the rate hearing was, the assessors doing a little more presentation next year and talking about as an educational process and talking about looking at homes in different towns, and because really, we spend a lot of time talking about the tax rate, and sometimes we put too much emphasis on the tax rate. If you look at when you really want to focus on the tax bill, if you look at one of the things that through the tax rate hearing process that we kind of all agreed to improve for next year is to have some analysis of really looking at some specific homes in different towns. Mm-hmm. Take Dover, for example. Their tax rate is I think 14.
Bucks. Yep.
You take a 4-bedroom, standard colonial on an acre piece of land with a 2-car attached garage. In Dover, that's $1 million home. Same home, you literally pick that home up and move it to Norfolk, same acre of land, same type of residential neighborhood. It's worth $600,000 to $650,000. So their tax rate, you take $1 million times their tax rate of $14, you get a $14,000 bill. You take ours times our tax rate, you're probably only going to get a $10,000 to $12,000 bill. So we get a better bill here, even though the tax rate is higher. So it's not as simple as comparing tax rates, and that's what people tend to do, is focus on tax rates.
And they look at towns surrounding us, such as Rentham. Well, Rentham's one, and we always look at. Rentham has a split rate.
Right.
I mean, they're at least 20% commercial. We're not. But I'd love to, we're hopeful that in the future we can compare us to towns that are similar in nature to us. Holliston, Hopkinton especially, I think is a good example. Sherburne. You look at all of those towns. Medway too, I believe, is another one that I think we looked at. Even though they may have a little bit more commercial, they don't have a split rate. You look at those towns, and our tax rate is actually lower than those towns. Now, you might also say that our property values might be a little higher than Medway.
Right, it'd be the reverse situation.
It all kind of washes out in the end. But we're hopeful that in the future we can get this thing down. But I mean, we haven't had any overrides since, I believe, 2003?
2005 was
2005,
the last,
sorry, thank
general
you.
override. Yep.
So we're not spending a dime more than we're allowed to have, and last year or two since the new school was built. That's really been the only excluded debt expense that we've had, other than the regional high school and middle school renovations.
And the library was the
And
other.
the library, but that's
Yep.
that's an older project,
Yep.
and that's coming
That's
close to coming
in.
off the books
Yeah.
here pretty soon too.
That was just before I started working for the town,
yeah.
so that's got to be 2001 or 2.
It's getting there. Yeah, so we're on the home stretch there. But we're all hopeful that it comes down, and then if the property values go up, it's the inverse order. I'm almost like bonds and interest rates.
Yeah.
You know, interest rates go up, bond values go down.
Yeah, I met with a group of realtors. It was actually the Berkshire Hathaway, or the formerly known as Prudential Page, and they were great. They had a lot of great questions. John Neeson and I went, the chief assessor, and we were talking about the tax rate, and they were hoping for us to figure out ways to get the tax rate down. But we had this kind of discussion, and it was good. It was good back and forth, talking about the discussion, and we were encouraging them to sell more homes so that we can
Yeah.
drive up the property values. But
So maybe just the last thing quickly to tie up. We're in good shape on the budget. Things continue to financially be pretty good for us, except for one not unexpected issue. We go through the trauma every year about this time, about whether or not we're going to get prison mitigation money, and has been the case for more often than not lately. It was removed from the budget, and we are not getting a payment this year for prison mitigation.
right. So we did receive it for 2012 and 2013.
Last 2 years. The year before that, we did not.
And we're not getting. Yep. Nope.
And of course, you may have read that the governor was proposing some cuts to local aid, as well as some of the school aid projects. He doesn't have the authority to do the local aid without the permission of the legislature, and they seem to be opposed to that. So, and we're hopeful that the new governor will not even propose that, but we'll find that out. I think when we go into the meeting in January,
Yeah,
we'll know where we stand.
Governor-elect Baker actually has come out several times and said he's going to release some of that road money that Governor Patrick
Right.
did not release. So that would be tremendous.
That'd be huge,
yeah.
huge. The only impact that we've seen from what the governor does control seems to be prison mitigation, and he does control some of the regional transportation budgets for regional schools. In talking with the superintendent there, they felt that the proposal would really only impact him to the tune of somewhere around $15,000. So, not that that's not something to be concerned about, but it isn't going to.
Out of a $30 million
It isn't
budget.
out of a
It's not
$30
the end
million
of- not the
budget.
end of the world.
It's they're not going to close the school. So, but it's unfortunate that we keep going through this. Seems to be a pattern, but we'll see
is.
how it works out.
It is. The prison mitigation is probably one of the more frustrating, budgetary things of our jobs. And it should not be a whim every year. I mean, there are real impacts to the towns that host the prisons. Certainly for our town, where we have 3 and majority of a
really
fourth prison in town. And the impact that we have of having to send the fire department down for smoke detectors and other alarms, and ambulances down for.
Yeah, it's a rare week they don't make a visit to the prison.
That they're there almost every week. They're
yeah.
there,
Yeah.
And several times a week is the normal.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the guards with popcorn things, smoking up. I mean, those are the frustrating things that cost us money. When we go down there and transport a sick person, at least we get some revenue out of that. So
but less than we would on a normal call.
Yep.
So it's not a moneymaker for us. And when the towns all agreed to, and there are, I think, 5 communities, I may be off 1 or 2.
7, I think.
7. That was off 1 or 2. There's 7 communities that host prisons. That was the deal.
Yeah.
And I think that sort of the political climate is such that they'd rather anger 7 towns than 350 towns, I guess, is the sort of unstated answer to this. But we have not gotten our fair share of reimbursement over the last 10 years on this. And it is frustrating because those checks are due end of November, early December. And 2 of the last 4 years, that decision was made end of November, early December. So we go into a financial cycle anticipating revenues that we don't seem to end up getting.
Yeah. So
But in defense of that, we did get one retroactively.
we did.
And perhaps, that might happen again. You never know with new leadership, we'll see.
Representative Dooley was hopeful, no guarantees obviously, but he's hopeful that this will be restored sometime in the March timeframe, assuming that the state revenues are up and the new governor is, looks at this favorably, that the money will be restored. So I hope so.
Well, we hope so too.
Thank him for his, Representative Dooley for his support, and Senator Ross has been working with us a great deal lately. He came and met with us on the Southwood property, so they are both working hard for us, and we appreciate their efforts.
Well, I think that about wraps us up for this time.
I think that does. We did, since our last meeting, we did have a successful town meeting, and we start working on budgets now and get ready for the May town meeting. It's always the second Tuesday in May, so I'm not sure what the date is, but
I'm not either.
we hope
It's
everybody
the week
will be
after the
there.
election, whatever that is.
First Tuesday will be the election, and the second Tuesday will be the town meeting. So the more people we can get there, the better.
And I hope everyone has a merry and joyful and safe Christmas.
Yeah, happy Hanukkah to our
Yep.
friends.
Happy holidays all the way around.
All the way around. And Happy New Year. So thank
Thanks,
you for joining
Jack.
us.
Yep. Thanks for having me.
So this is the end of our December show for Conversation Corner. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. And as Jim said, have a happy and safe holiday, and we'll see you in January. Take care.